So you mentioned the possibility that Billy Napier could finish out the season, but be a fired head coach. What do you think would be the most optimal decision to be made that would be the best for the health of this program? Would it be, is there a coach on staff that you trust to hand the keys to for the final 9 games, 8 games?
That's the problem. No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Ron Roberts is not that guy's defensive coordinator. They brought in Dan Enos as a analyst. He's got some head coaching experience, but failed almost every stop he's been at lately. There's the only alumni you have on staff is Mike Peterson as your edge rusher coach. So you give him that responsibility when he's never even been a head coach at the college level. Jabbar Jaluk is somebody who's been with Billy Napier for a long time. Rob Sell as well. No, Mark, there's nobody qualified. Look, don't get me wrong. I think it's overblown. I mean, once you fire the head coach, does it really matter who the interim is? Of course, you want somebody that maybe the players can rally around and somebody who will look after the players and still put them in the best situations for the games that you have left. But in the big picture, it doesn't matter who it's going to be. And so that's the way I kind of look at it. But you also don't want somebody to throw away, what this could mean for the players for the rest of the season. So I think, Mark, if it's presented with Billy Napier and maybe the relationship he's built, he probably hangs on. That's going to be a decision he has to make too as well. I do think, Mark, it would be beneficial if you're going to make the move to fire Billy Napier, and whether you keep him on for the rest of the season or not, the decision needs to be made fast because it's toxic right now. And we heard all the boos in the swamp. Those probably won't go away whether he's you make the announcement he's fired or not. If it still looks ugly, but there's a mounting pressure. It is getting toxic in some ways. I do think you can alleviate some of that pressure if you say, okay, we are moving on from Billy Napier. So, but I do think maybe from a player perspective now, you could sit there and say, oh, maybe they rally around him. Maybe they had their opportunities to do that. This team was questioned all offseason against Miami in a back against the wall mentality, wounded dog mood. It didn't show up. And then some people wanted to say, okay, well, it show up against Texas A&M, blah, 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 blah. No, it didn't. Their opportunity for proving everybody wrong and back against the wall, that's past. That's gone now. So I don't even think you really get that rallying point of, hey, let's go play for Billy Napier. That should have already been done. You're not going to flip that switch now. So I think there's a lot of ways to look at it, but I would not be against it whatsoever if he decides to stay on and coach these players that he's coached. Maybe try something different, just give most responsibility to somebody else, or he just continues down the same path. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
And the point that you made about it not mattering, actually, in this transfer portal world, it's even more so in that direction. In the past, we would have said, okay, it's a lost season and you hate to watch it go down like this, but at least you can have some semblance of fun as a fan evaluating, and you as an analyst evaluating the team, the young players. How are they going to play the rest of the season? Are they going to play this week against Mississippi State? Our freshmen are sophomore, but you don't know if those guys are going to be around. They were pretty much stuck to that program in the past. So you could at least evaluate and just project, okay, what do we have here? But who knows?
Yeah, Mark, that's why I've been against, there's been this fan narrative of, you can't keep firing coaches every 3-4 years, or, you got to have stability. Stability for the sake of stability is not stability. In today's college football, it's not. Going to your point there, whether you keep him for another year just because, okay, let's give him a fourth year no matter what, or you decide to move on, the roster's going to be in flux either way. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of if you're a high player who's going to get hit up by DMs and emails and text messages from agents around the country to go to another school, there's going to be a lot of players on this roster. If somehow Billy Napier wants to stay, that's going to transfer away from Florida just because they don't believe in the direction of the program. If he's fired, that's going to happen anyway. Now, that's the world we're living in right now. The roster's going to be in flux either way. Now, you make a good next hire, maybe some of those guys stay. But at the point that we're at right now, with the roster and the way the roster can change, Mark, there's stability for the sake of stability is not the way to go. And I'll say it, and I'll say it again, and Gator fans are probably tired of hearing it, Mark, but it's a hiring problem at Florida, not a firing problem.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to point to with the question about Scott Strickland and just the number of coaches that have been hired in regards to, and not just laying it on the AD, but the entire administration, and posing that question as to whether that could be part of the issue. DJ Lagway set a school record for freshman passing a couple weekends ago against Samford. 456, I believe, was the number. So that could turn out to be just a footnote in Florida history if he moves on. Just, oh, we never really got a chance, but he set a record and left. Or again, if this was the old days, there would be a buzz of excitement to, okay, this season's lost. We're going 4-8 or whatever it's going to be. But we got DJ Lagway. And it's an impossible question in regards to whether he's going to stick around. That's another importance to this head coaching hire, the credibility of that guy to try to maintain Lagway and other quality players.
Yeah, for sure, Mark. I mean, Lagway loves being a Gator. That is, it's obvious if you're close to the program, even behind the scenes a little bit. He loves being a Florida Gator. I do think he would give whoever would be the next hire the chance to talk him into staying. I don't think it would be an automatic, he's gone. He likes being a Gator. He loves being in Gainesville. He was a Gator fan growing up, Gator fan coming to Florida. That's, one of the major pulls. And don't get me wrong, he was a big Billy Napier fan as well. So I don't think it's a shoe that he stays, a shoe in that he stays. I don't think it's a shoe in that he leaves. I think there's going to be some really realistic conversations going on whether DJ Lagway wants to stay at Florida or not. But yeah, Mark, there's so many ways to look at it. As we talked about right here, transfer portal guys leaving as well. But a timeline of getting your next guy in with an expanded playoff and the early signing day and transfer portal. I mean, if you're trying to get an established guy, and that guy, of course, everybody's name goes to Lane Kiffin, or everybody's top choice for the Florida job in Gator Nation is Lane Kiffin. That's going to be not everybody there, but if you take a poll, that's going to be the name that comes up the most. And there's going to be a timeline with that. If Ole Miss makes a playoff, you probably going into January before you can even say he would leave Ole Miss for Florida. Now, maybe there's some way an announcement gets made, but does he do that to Ole Miss? Does he agree to a Florida job and say, hey, after whatever happens, even if we go to the national championship game, I'm leaving. I'm leaving to go to Florida. I don't necessarily see that happening, but Mark, you look at this. If Florida wants him to be the guy, they're going to have to wait, and then you're probably going to get that inclination that he's going to be the guy. If Florida doesn't hire somebody in December, you know who the top target is. I mean, it's a dead giveaway that's going to be Lane Kiffin. And then if you wait that long and then don't get him, you're probably digging even deeper of a hole. That doesn't mean you don't make the move. You absolutely make the move to fire Billy Napier. But there's a lot of angles to this to where it could dig a hole a little bit deeper. If you're ready to make a move, you make the move. You do not make the move because you want to keep players or there's a certain timeline. Transition classes are mostly a wash anyway. We'll see what the NCAA does with this second transfer portal window. If that doesn't go away, you got an advantage there. But if they get away, if that spring portal window goes away and you hire Lane Kiffin, it's going to be very, very tough to build a roster that could compete maybe right away in year one. He'd have to wait to hit the transfer portal pretty heavy in year two. So, if Lane Kiffin is your guy, which I think he should be, there are some outside circumstances you probably have to look at.
Well, David, I think you just hit on a dynamic with this new college football playoff going to 12 teams that hasn't been hit on, and that's the coaching carousel, which, of course, those 4 teams are typically elite teams. Those coaches aren't going to be touched, but you broaden it out to 12, and you got these kind of situations that are more probable to arise. Interesting there.
When's the first round, Mark? Mid-December?
December 20th?
Or 20th, yeah. So, what's after, or that's the week, I think it's the week of early signing day, right? I think early signing day is that Wednesday, and then those first games are that Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even if he's coaching in that first weekend and loses, you are still missing out on your early signing day. Like I said, transition classes are a wash anyway. That is not a reason not to make a move on somebody. Don't get me wrong. If he's your guy, he's your guy. But at the same time, it just does put another wrinkle into the early stages of building a program.
All right, folks. Florida goes to Mississippi State. If you've ever been in a stadium when there's been this kind of saga, it's just an odd, eerie feeling because people aren't really watching, paying attention to the game. They are thinking about what's going to happen with the coach and the team. And it's kind of strange. I don't know what it was like at the Swamp this past weekend, probably something like that, but maybe a refreshing thing actually for the team to go on the road and get out of there.
Yeah, there was some boo birds, of course, going into. There was the weather delay, some boo birds going into the locker room, halftime boo birds going into the locker room, and certainly after the game. Mark, I know you worked in that area. Were you there when Sylvester Kroom upset Ron Zook?
I just missed that by a couple of years.
Okay, because there's a precedent of Florida coaches going to Starkville and losing there and getting fired after that. So could it happen again Saturday?
All right. David Waters, Gators Breakdown. That is the destination to be. It's one of the most successful college football podcasts out there. So you can catch it on your favorite audio platform or right here on YouTube. David, appreciate you stopping by, breaking things down for us. Know it's been a rough season for you and the Gator faithful.
Yeah, for sure. Next time we talk, Mark, who knows who'd be head coach of Florida?